So I recently hired one person in my marketing agency that has saved me and my entire team over 100 hours every single month in just their first 30 days of being with us. Imagine having an extra 100 hours a month and what you could do with that time and how much quicker you could grow. Now, I'm going to be sharing who that person is today and the process for finding them and their workflow, because I believe now that this is the single most important hire that any agency or service-based business will make over the next 2 years. In fact, I would go as far to say is the single most important hire for any business, period. I'm actually going to go through a different style of content today. I'm going to go through a presentation in which I shared at a recent mastermind event full of 8-figure entrepreneurs. This presentation won me this award, Most Valuable Contributor. Now, granted, this is a small part of a presentation that I went through. There was very high-level content, naturally, being for 8-figure entrepreneurs. But if enough of you enjoy this and if enough of you comment down below, maybe I'll share the entire thing with you in a future video. Let's get straight into this. Now, you may have heard me speaking about this before. If you haven't seen my content before, my name is Jordan Platten. I own Affluent.co. We're an agency based in the UK. I also own an education business. We've mentored over 4,500 agencies over the past 8 years. I've made many millions online. And very recently, I've been talking a lot about AI 2027, which is a prediction model based on how AI is going to move and shape industries by 2027, so within the next 2 years. You should go and check this out yourself, go and Google it. All of the guys that have contributed to this model are incredibly reputable, come from OpenAI, come from Harvard Research, etc. And what we're looking at here, if we look at this graph, is we are obviously somewhere here at the moment, but we are predicting, or these guys are predicting, that by 2027, we're going to have superhuman coders, we're going to have superhuman AI researchers by mid-2027. By the end of 2027, we're going to have superhuman remote workers. Okay, and superhuman means better than any human that exists right now. Okay, so robots are going to be outperforming, or AI is going to be outperforming us on every task that we can complete inside of our own business. And so that's a huge threat to any business right now. Okay, it's a threat to any team member inside of any business. So if you have more than 5 team members in your company right now, you need to pay attention to what we're going to go through today, and you need to pay attention in advance and take action on this today, so you don't come to 2027 and all your team are scrambling thinking, oh my God, AI is coming from my job. We have to bring people in on what is inevitably going to happen to their roles regardless. Now, I can't take full credit for this. This is actually something I learned from a conversation with Stephen Bartlett recently. I met Stephen at a conference called AdCom. It's the biggest marketing conference in the UK. And he said something to me that really stuck with me. He said, I've recently launched an initiative in my business where all of the key executives in the company have been tasked with making themselves redundant. That threw me back a bit. I was like, what does he mean by making themselves redundant? Is he quite literally asking them to sack themselves? No. What he is saying through this initiative is that every key person in the team needs to understand that AI and superintelligence is coming. Now, we don't know exactly when it's going to happen. We can only base our predictions on what the experts are saying, people like AI 2027. But regardless, AI is coming for lots of the menial tasks that we work on a daily basis, and even some of those more advanced tasks. So we can get to that point, and then people can be effectively useless to the business. Or if we prepare our team members in advance and let them know that this is an inevitability, it's going to happen, we can allow them to make themselves redundant based on who they are today and what they currently do inside the business. So what they're actually doing is saying goodbye to their old role and transitioning into something new, where they can continue to provide real value to the business, doing what humans do best, being creative, leading strategy, leading communication, being able to be entrepreneurs inside the business, getting rid of all of the menial, repeat, admin-based tasks that they work on that probably bog them down and fog their creativity anyway. And so this is all about painting a picture for what life is going to be like when we do have superintelligence AI, and how people can move into a new existence within the companies that they work with. And I just thought this was incredibly smart. And in fact, I actioned this 1 week after having this conversation with Stephen. And I'm going to be running through the initiative in which we used to launch this Make Yourself Redundant campaign, I suppose, inside of our marketing agency and then broadly into all the other businesses that we work in. And then we found we needed to hire a specific person that could implement this for us. I'm going to give you the whole thing right now. So by the end of this, you're going to be able to run your business dramatically different to how you're building it right now, and you'll be able to recoup hundreds of hours on a monthly basis. The more team members you've got, the bigger the benefit from this video. So get rid of all your tabs, pay attention to this, take notes, and actually implement this, because this is the future and you're going to fall behind if you don't do it. Now, this is the most crucial hire for any business with over 5 team members over the next 24 months. In fact, even if you've got a couple of team members, this is still very important. This is an AI specialist. You can hire them part-time or full-time, depending on your needs. But the biggest mistake I've seen people make already is they go ahead and just hire this person, bring them in on the company and say, hey, make us more efficient, make us more profitable. But that person doesn't understand the business well enough to actually be able to build anything of true value. There has to be an initiative that's launched by the founder, by me and you, first, before we go ahead and hire this person. That is the crucial part. And that's what I'm going to be running through first before we come into how you actually bring in this person. You cannot skip this. So what is the Make Yourself Redundant initiative? This is a 30-day initiative that you can launch across your entire business, regardless of what you do, what you sell, and who to, okay? Week 1 is going to be a time audit. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your entire team on a call, and you're going to bring them in on this. You're going to let them know, you're going to show them the AI 2027 initiative. I built a whole deck for this for the team. And you're going to show them and bring them in on the fact that their job is at threat over the next couple of years because AI is coming for those menial tasks. And we have to sell them on the vision of being able to work on creative, being able to work on strategy, being able to get rid of all of those admin tasks that they actually hate inside the business already. So we sell them on this new vision so we know where they're going. We have to get them bought into this initiative so they are behind it, so they're motivated to do it. And then we're going to set them with the task. We're going to say we're going to do a 30-day initiative, and we're going to break it down into weeks. And the first week, what I'd like you to do is a time audit. And this is where, simply, and I prefer to do this manually in my companies rather than doing it digitally, you're going to write down every single task that you're working on a daily basis. So every single individual team member across the entire business, when they finish a task, they write it down. Ideally, they write down how much time they spent on that task as well, so you can get an idea of efficiency and how much time you can actually save. They're going to log all of those tasks, and then at the end of a 7-day period, they're going to submit that on a Google form, so you have a centralized place to look at the time audits for every single team member in the business. Week 2, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, guys, awesome, thank you for doing that. Now what I would like you to do is look at your time audit and try and spot inefficiencies. And I would like you to suggest automations, okay? Think about what we could potentially automate. And again, they're going to submit that on a Google form. Now, you could say, why doesn't the founder just look at this and figure out the automations themselves? That would be a crucial error. You need your team to feel confident in their own ability to fail forward with AI. You're going to give them time within the week, give them the freedom to do that on working on paid hours, to just go and Google, watch some YouTube videos, explore various different tools and fail forward. The key to success in the future is everybody having an understanding of how AI works. You can't just have the founder and an AI specialist having an understanding. Every single individual team member in every single department needs to have that. So whether it's your service delivery, whether it's your sales, even if it's just admin and operations, everyone needs to understand how to do this themselves. And the truth is, you're going to get a lot of bad submissions. You're going to get a lot of shit ideas. But within there, you'll get little glimmers of magic. You'll get some really cool ideas that maybe you haven't thought of yourself. And that's what you're looking for. Now, you can also use this as a training exercise, and you should do. If you spot automation suggestions from team members that just aren't possible, teach them on the limitations of the tech as it stands, and teach them on what they need to wait for and for that to actually be able to happen and materialize. If you spot areas or tasks on their time audit that they haven't picked out for automation, educate them on how it can be automated. Okay, this wants to be a company-wide exciting initiative. Everyone is sold on the idea of moving towards this new existence within the business, freeing up their time so they can spend more on the things that they love. That is the key. So they've suggested the automations. Now we move into week 3, and we're doing this every week on our Monday calls. We do a company-wide call. We call it the Monday morning meeting across the whole company in the agency. And this is where we're going through this and checking in with everyone. Week 3, we're like, okay, cool. We've identified the automations that make a lot of sense at the moment in each department. Everyone knows which they are. Now what I would like you to do is go ahead and create some draft flows. Now, I'm going to show you some flows in a moment. I'm going to show you how we're thinking about this. But what you want to use is something like Figma or Miro, and we're just going to create a simple flow map, okay? And this doesn't have to be deep and granular, if this, then that conditional logic. It can be very broad and wide. We want the team to just fail forward with it and suggest how they see this automation working. For example, it might be onboarding a new client. And so the trigger may be, okay, when we have an invoice paid, then we want to automate the process of creating a WhatsApp group. Then we want to automate the process of sending a WhatsApp group message. Then we want to automate, a Slack message to the relevant delivery team so they can come in, etc., etc. So they're just outlining that process in the way that they see it. Again, not everything is going to be solid. It doesn't need to be. It allows people to fail forward, because then week 4, you're going to step in as the founder. This is the first time that you really come in and take over with everything that's happening. You're going to review all of those draft flows across every department in the business, and you're going to create what I call the automation hub. And this really is just a Miro board, which is finalizing the automations that actually make sense within the business. And you're going to go ahead as an incubator and fix them based on what is actually possible. So you might see that there are limitations or just errors in that automation flow. You're going to correct it to the best of your ability. You're then going to organize it into individual subsections of the business. In fact, here's an overview of, this is actually the first draft. This is much bigger now inside of the company, but this is from the initiative. Admin and support, client success, marketing, sales, and we are creating these flows within the business. And I myself sat down actually for an entire weekend. Don't know how you guys work. We all work differently. But for me, I'm very bogged down with all sorts of different tasks in the week. My priorities are different. This was a beautiful task to be working on the weekend. When you got this clarity, when none of the team are in, when I could just sit in a coffee shop with inspiration and just be like, right, what are the things that are actually going to save us a huge amount of time in the business? Where are the highest leverage automations right now? And I just mapped this all out, put some binaural beats on. Actually, I think it was a little bit of liquid drum and bass, big hack for you guys. And cranked this out over the course of a couple of days, and well, that's how we do it. So let me just actually show you one of these so you can get an idea of it. One of them that I identified was we're spending 2 hours per week per closer, so per sales person in our team, on call reviews. So every single week we're reviewing calls from our sales team. It's really the most vital way to improve anyone's sales ability. We can't stop doing this, but it's a huge amount of time for the sales manager. So how can we make this more efficient? Well, what we did was we mapped out a sales call review automation. In fact, I'll show you that right now. Okay, so this is the sales call review flow. And on the left-hand side, what we have is an overview of it. So this is just the purpose. Anyone can read this and understand what it does. So new call recording comes through. We run through the details on the sales agent GPT, which we built, that gives the feedback. I'll talk about how we did that in a moment. And we send the feedback to the closer, it checks for implementation, and then sends to sales manager if no progress after 3 strikes. I'll explain what that means in a minute. So we start the automation, a new Google Drive file recording comes through. All of our agency calls are hosted on Google Meets, and so they automatically come through from Gemini on Google Drive. We transcribe the call recording on Gemini. We used to do this on Descript on the first time that we created this. Then we're going to check, has this automation run anytime recently? Okay. If it hasn't run, so it's like the first time for this closer, then what it's going to do is we actually have a sales agent GPT that we created. So this is a custom GPT using OpenAI, and there are 4 prompts that break down 4 different parts of the sales meeting. And we created these prompts by uploading a whole bunch of sales call feedback that we've done in the past, uploading any training that we have on our sales process as well, and then asking GPT to come up with prompts itself. Okay, so there's 4 stages. The first stage is discovery. We then have the pitch. We then have the close. We have a scorecard over the final of the entire thing. Okay, and so this is fed by prompts. It's also fed by knowledge of our sales script, any sales training that we've got internally as well. So first of all, it generates prompt response 1. And the reason why we're breaking this down into 4 prompts rather than having this like as one big doc or one big prompt is because you will get limited response. You want this to be as granular as possible with something like this. And so we're breaking it down into individual areas of the sales call so it can be as detailed as we need it to be. So we generate prompt 1, that is the discovery phase. Basically, how has this discovery phase gone? How did the closer handle it? We then go through prompt 2, which is the pitch. Then we do prompt 3, which is the close, and prompt 4, which is the scorecard. Okay, so it's an overview of the call itself, and we give them a score out of, I believe it's 60, and so add a score out of 60 on how that call actually went. Based on that information, we update the scorecard on our Notion database. Okay, so we're hosting a Notion database with a list. Ours is actually now hosted on Airtable. We have a custom tracking system on Airtable where we host all of our sales information. We have a board on there, and it has a scorecard based on all the calls that are happening there. Okay. We add all of the responses to Google Docs, so that's for the feedback. Okay, so to give them feedback all in one. We then send that Google Doc to a closer on Slack, so they get to see all of that feedback from that call, and then we end. Okay, so that's what happens if we haven't had any calls reviewed previously for this closer. They just get sent this feedback. It's a really comprehensive doc. It gives them suggestions on what they need to improve and so on and so forth. It's absolutely awesome. In fact, if you want to see one of these call review feedback documents, follow me on Instagram at Jordan Platten and DM me call review, and I will send you over one of these feedback documents so you can see it for yourself. Cool. Now, what happens if an automation does or has been ran recently? So we've already provided feedback to a closer. I wanted to bake in some kind of a mechanism that essentially validates the closer is listening to the information. Because the danger with AI is that people don't take it as valuable or as seriously as when their sales manager is knocking on their back saying, hey, man, like you did this on the call. This is what you need to improve going forward. And so we're like, well, how can we bake in a feedback mechanism that checks that people are actually implementing it? So if there has been a recent automation, it will fetch the recent feedback document on Google. So it will look at the most recent feedback, and then it will use a different prompt to essentially check the new transcript against the old transcript with the previous call feedback to validate that they have made some kind of implementation on the feedback they received previously. So we get the discovery, the pitch, the close, the scorecard, okay, but based on the previous feedback, and then we update their scorecard on the Notion database or Airtable, and then we add all of those responses to the Google Doc, and then we send the Google Doc to the closer on Slack, okay? But if they haven't implemented the feedback, then they get a strike on Airtable. So we have a 3-part strike system that essentially says, did the closer implement any of the feedback? Have they made any progress at all based on what we previously said? If no, then they get a strike. If they get 3 strikes, then what happens is a notification gets sent through to the sales manager on Slack to say this closer isn't improving at the moment and taking on the feedback. That is the point that the sales manager then intervenes and has a conversation with the closer, reviews the feedback, gets deep into it. And so we are saving countless hours on a weekly basis by the sales manager not having to come in and intervene on improving a closer's ability to close until they have had 3 strikes and multiple rounds of feedback. Game changing, and we're just going to keep implementing and changing this over time. So that's just one really efficient way that we've been able to save countless hours inside the business. Just such an awesome automation. I'm going to show you some other ones that we've done. I'll talk you through some of them. Obvious ones, onboarding process inside the business. We've truly completely automated this now. Client Success Manager call reviews. So client success managers are checking in with clients, having conversations there, often fighting fires. We kind of replicated that same sales manager automation system, but for coaching calls or client success calls, to just review how generally they are handling those calls and how they can improve there. Because you want to treat coaches, client success managers, account managers, whatever you call them, in the same way as you treat closers. We have to give them feedback every single week in order for them to improve. Something they did on the personal brand was podcast guest management. So defining an ICP, an ideal customer or ideal guest, I suppose, for the podcast, researching a number of guests, scoring them and filtering them based on order of priority, and then even outreaching those guests as well. So full automation management on the podcast side, inbox management, segmenting the emails, creating drafts for the emails based on our responses, auto forwarding emails to individual departments and team members, saved a huge amount of time there. And there's just a whole countless other array of various automations that we've created. Okay, so this is the initial stage. We are creating automation inside the existing business that we have got, but there is a roadmap for this, because we start off on internal automations, and realistically it's going to take the best part of 90 days to create all of the baseline automations inside of the business that are going to save you a huge amount of time and lead you into this new kind of AI enabled, infused, company. The next thing that we can do, though, is use this AI automation specialist to move into client automations. So we can start bringing clients in on this initiative. And you'll notice I've spoken about this a lot very recently, about how we can capitalize on AI, how we can, or how businesses can really come out on top in this new AI era. And the key is really starting off as a service-based business, but then looking into our clients and seeing how we can make them more efficient and make them more profitable. And so once we fixed our own house, and we definitely need to fix our own house first, we can then look to fixing our client's house. So we can jump on coaching calls is really the easiest way with our clients. We can bring them in and teach them about this initiative we launched in our own business, and we can encourage them to launch that initiative themselves, but let them know that we can create the automation on their behalf. And so then we can create automation for our clients, and we're going to be able to create better solutions. When we've fixed our existing clients, we can start looking at market automations. We can start looking at patterns across the entire market that we work with beyond the existing clients that we work with. Okay, we might be reaching for a higher caliber of client that we haven't managed to unlock yet. And so we can start interviewing and having conversations with founders and doing much larger ticket automation builds with us leading the strategy with the initiative I just went through, and our automation specialist going ahead and doing this, okay? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this is all well and good, but who's actually going to build these automations? It's the AI specialist, it's the developer, and that is what an AI specialist is. They are a developer fundamentally. And many people will look at this and be like, oh my God, I can't afford to get a developer into the business as a really expensive role. Right now, as it stands, this role is incredibly cheap. And I might regret recording this video, to be perfectly frank. Like, I might eat my words. My commitment to you guys is to always provide you an incredible amount of value. But if enough of you implement this role is going to become very high demand and it's going to become really expensive. Right now, it's actually really cheap. It's bonkers. So how are we going to hire this AI specialist? What are we looking for? We're looking for a developer with 3+ years development experience. Any developer, and when I developer, I'm really talking about a developer that's got Java experience, okay? Any developer that's got Java experience can use NA10 piss easy, okay? Because NA10 works with JSON. And so we are looking for devs, and most devs are pivoting, unless they're in web, most devs are pivoting to some kind of AI at the moment because they know that is the future of their career. So we have millions of devs across the world who are now pivoting into this kind of role, which is why there is an abundance of these AI specialists or people looking to move into that AI specialist role. It's like the gold rush of the development industry, okay? So 3+ years dev experience. We do want them now working with NA10. That is the main automation tool that we're going to use ourselves. We want to self-host NA10, okay? So we don't want to have to pay like the cloud fees, self-host it. They'll be able to set that up for you. Best places to look from my experience, or at least where I found the best candidates, onlinejobs.bh. The Philippines are going crazy for this role at the moment. Facebook groups as well. I believe the biggest N8N Facebook group is a Filipino Facebook group. There's like 10,000 members joining it a week, which is absolutely mental. If you're hiring, if you're in the US and you're watching this, South America, I'm sure you can find lots of people. If you're in Europe, then Eastern Europe, there are loads of universities that are specializing in development and so on. So like Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, you'll find lots of very good developers who are moving into this role as well, and you'll still be able to hire them for relatively cheap. Yeah, cool. So we're then going to put out an app that's really important, actually, that when we're putting out an app, we're as specific as possible. We want to be detailed about our business and our needs. We want to highlight the process that we are going to create draft automations and the specialist is going to come in and create them on our behalf. Now, one thing I will say quickly is I would recommend hiring full-time if you can afford to do so. If you hire part-time, they're going to be splitting their time across multiple companies. You're not going to get the most that you can get out of someone. So full-time is always going to be better, but obviously if you can't afford it, then just go part-time to start off with. The aim, set the intention with them that you want to bring them in full-time when you can afford to do so. So you can get people full-time from between $1,500 and $2,500 a month, okay? Depending on where you're hiring from, the average is going to be about, $2,000. Why would I prefer to pay in the middle? Well, because we're going to get someone with a lot more experience and someone, we don't want to get someone just for the cheapest. We want to have someone who's, that knows what they're doing, that knows far more than us. That's the most important thing. I think it's important to note that I actually tried to launch this initiative with our operations manager inside the business. And then we really understood very quickly that the learning curve from someone to go from, understanding Zapier or understanding make.com or basic automation flows to actually being someone that can build out on NA10, bypass APIs, because NA10 has limitations. There aren't all the integrations that you need right now with every single tool that you need. So you need to work with a developer that can bypass APIs, that has a deep understanding of Java, that has a good development experience in order to go ahead and maximize the potential of what you're trying to build here. So if you try and do it yourself, or you try and get someone in existing companies to do it, you've got a huge learning curve. It's so much easier, cheaper, faster to get someone to just come in who's already been a dev. You can trial 2 to 3 people, or you should trial 2 to 3 people. You don't just want to go in with the first person you find. You're going to have loads of automations that you could potentially create. And so I would just pick one, and I would give that one automation to 3 people on a paid trial, a couple of $100 or something like that each, and see what they create. See who has the best working process, who's the best communicator with you, who's the fastest, and who ultimately, most importantly, comes up with the best automation that is the most efficient in the least steps possible, that costs you the least amount of money to run at the end of the day. Then you can pick your final person off the back of that, give them a trial period within the business. So if things go tits up, you can get rid of them eventually. This is how you get an AI specialist coming. I've seen so much BS, frankly, on YouTube at the moment, with people talking about like the AI automation role inside of companies, and how, you know, you're charging tens, if not hundreds of thousands for these AI automation, jobs. The truth is, you can charge that, but if you know anything about hiring, you know anything about team, you know anything about leverage, you can get someone to do all of this for you for literally a couple of $1,000 a month. Like, you don't need to pay someone tens of thousands. You don't need to pay someone hundreds of thousands. You can charge that if you want to your clients, if your ICP can afford it. But this is how you actually implement that stuff without you having to go ahead and learn it all and get all of this development experience somebody else has already had. You can just be the strategist. And the strategy is the most exciting part. Like, building the thing isn't that fun unless you're just like super introverted, super techie, and you just want to hide behind the computer. The strategy bit, the idea, the fantasy of this is how much time I'm going to save, this is how much more profit I'm going to make. That's the fun part as a founder, at least for me. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of you, but yeah, let me know the way you feel about it anyway. So go ahead and try it out. This is how you evolve into a new age business. This is how you prepare for what is to come over the next few years. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.